No, we are not done talking about Charlie Kirk. We had a BC episode, which was our Before Charlie episode, and now we are doing an AC episode, our After Charlie episode. We are bringing back our friend Caroline, former Turning Point USA staff member, to join in on some hot goss with us today. I am Maggie Gelson Burnett.
And I'm Mallory Hagan. This is Pretty Furious.
Pew, pew, pew.
I think we just need to make Pyong Pyong merch now.
I really would love that. I would love a pew, pew, pew hat.
I don't think we've made it through an episode of that.
I don't think so. Not in a very long time. Mallory, how are we doing today, girl?
Listen, we are barely making it, but making it. I have to say, the days with the newborn just turn into nights so fast, and I just look around and go, where did time go?
Fully. What a year this week has been.
That too.
Wowzers. We had the amazing Democratic victories that happened on November 4th, shortly followed by the Democratic establishment failing us all, which just really encapsulates what it's like to be a liberal living in America right now, is that everyone is terrible.
And then we've gone from a government shutdown to a government open to whether we have SNAP benefits, whether we don't. Then we've got the subsidies and the votes, and they finally swore in Grijalva, and she signed for the Epstein files to be released. And even though Congress hasn't voted on that yet, as today's Friday, we're recording this before a Monday release, we did get some new emails.
We did. Boy, did we. And some of them are just interesting is probably the only word that comes to mind. I read a really funny thread the other day, and I have to share it with you. And it said please let the thing about the BJ be true. And I laughed so hard.
I mean, full circle. If you don't
Really
know what
would
we're
be.
talking about, apparently, allegedly.
For all intents and purposes, this is speculatory.
Okay, just so we're clear though. Okay, so the email said something to the tune of Donnie and Bubba. There was, okay, so people are drawing the line that Bubba is Bill Clinton.
Right.
And so that makes me feel a little weird, because drawing that line that's making a huge conclusion based off of the name Bubba, which could be literally anybody.
Yeah, a lot of people.
But the content that's coming out about Donald Trump and Bill Clinton is hilarious.
It's pretty good.
I will say this, living in New York for as long as I did, it is well known that Bill Clinton liked to dabble among gays of a certain age. Yes.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That doesn't surprise me though.
Yeah, I attended a Thanksgiving dinner once, and there was a lot of conversation at that Thanksgiving dinner about the fact that Bill liked to dabble. He was known for
fascinating.
So
wow.
So it wouldn't surprise me. But I do think the content is funny that's coming out, but it also makes me feel a little weird, because I'm like, well, Bubba could be
a lot of people. Yeah.
A lot of people.
And obviously that's really the only funny piece of content coming out of this. Everything else is very jarring, very scary, confirms a lot of suspicions that we have all had for a very long time. So yeah, we will see what comes in the following days, but I don't think we can expect a vote on this in Congress until, early December, I think, because it'll take like a 7-day period for Mike Johnson to do something, to initiate the vote or something, and then...
Well, I don't know. I was trying to read about today that he was expediting it, so I don't know, and it keeps changing.
Oh, okay.
I think that even though they've had all this time, just so we're clear, to figure out what to do about this scenario, I think their feet are to the fire, because the Democrats had the votes, or the ability for the signatures, and so now they're like having to figure out, how do we respond to this when it all comes out, because it is obviously all coming out. In addition, the story around Matt Gaetz and the girl that he paid for sex has
Mhm.
escalated, and we know more about her now. She's spoken
Mhm.
out. And so it's just like, this whole conversation we're getting ready to have about the right and MAGA and Christian nationalism and all of this stuff. It all of this, the church, Turning Point, Donald Trump and the Epstein files, Matt Gaetz, like the pedophile protection that has gone on this side of the aisle, on that side of the aisle, is just baffling to me. It is
Mhm.
baffling to me that people deny their eyes and ears and what they see and hear and understand about these people, and none of it is enough. None
Yeah.
of it is enough to make people who support turn the other way, and that is so crazy to me. But
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
My headline kind of touches on that, but
Mhm.
before we get into our headlines and all of the good stuff, be sure that you're following us. We
Mhm.
are at Pretty Furious Pod. You can find us everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Substack, et cetera,
Facebook,
YouTube.
even
Yeah,
Facebook.
literally everywhere. We are doing our giveaway. Pew, pew,
Yay!
pew. Our giveaway is happening next week. I think we're going to do it probably like midweek. So be on the lookout for that on Instagram. That's where we will do that. We'll announce the winner over there. Yeah, mid next week. So, or
Yeah.
mid, this is coming out on a Monday. It will be Wednesday. So Wednesday the 19th, I believe. So yeah, keep your eyes open for that.
Yeah, the other thing I want to shout out really quick is a lot of people are doing a blackout for Black Friday. Lots
Yes.
of folks are not spending money. Many people are thinking about how to have a holiday season without supporting some of these large corporations that have their foot on our necks, damn it. So
Mhm.
my I suggest, if you're a listener and you have friends and you want to support, buy some merch from Pretty Furious. Let that be the way you spend money on Black Friday. We would love for you to grab a hat or a t-shirt and wear it around, promo the podcast. We would appreciate that.
Yes, I believe the big 3 that we are boycotting are Amazon, Target, and Home Depot, but basically any big box store, we are planning to not shop there. So support your small businesses and local businesses.
For sure.
Um, Mallory, you can't be pretty furious without being pretty first.
Sure can't.
Mhm.
Sure cannot.
Sure cannot.
And
What is your product?
we have talked about this before, so shout out to any company that wants to send me things because I am a person who actually doesn't use a ton of products. And I was
Mhm.
looking around today and I was like, I think
Have we
we've gone
cycled
through
through
my
them
whole
all?
I think we've gone through everything I use. But then I started thinking about I've talked about going to European Wax Center before.
Oh, yes.
Love getting a wax. And one thing we haven't done is my ingrown hair wipes. I don't know if you can see.
Ooh, yeah.
So these, like anything that you might put on your face, are little pads that have treatment serum on them. And after you shave or wax, which is what they would prefer, I'm sure, at European Wax Center, after you shave or wax, you're going to pop this on your skin, no matter where it is. And it helps with ingrown hairs. And for someone like me, I love this product. I use it
Love that.
religiously. And I was looking around and I thought, can't believe I haven't talked about that one yet. So there it is. Treat
Love
ingrown hair
it.
wipes from European Wax Center. What about you?
Amazing. I'll have to give those a go. Mine is the odds that I have mentioned this already are probably pretty high. This is the Obagi Medical Elastoderm Firming Eye Cream.
You
So,
absolutely have not. I would have remembered
O
Obagi.
Obagi, I listen, I'm going out on a total limb there and saying that that's how you pronounce it. Obagi, I truly have no idea. This is owned, so this company, whoever owns this company also owns, I think Zoe Skincare, which is like a very high-end, expensive, like quote medical grade skincare. So you can find Zoe Skincare at like your injector, a med spa, etc. So I, to be totally transparent, did get this sent to me. Obagi has sent me stuff periodically in the last couple of years, and they sent me this uh maybe 6 months ago, and I went through it immediately. It was amazing. It's my favorite eye cream. And then they sent it to me again, and I was like, yes.
Said
So
Obagi.
Obagi,
Put me on
also
your list.
hit up my girl Mallory. Yeah, this was great, and I am so excited to have another container of it, and it doesn't have, like somehow it doesn't have any, like, retinol in it. It's just a firming eye cream, which I really appreciate. Anyway, that's my product. It is a little bit spency, though, but I will say this is one of the products that I think a lot about products I get in PR that I would actually pay money for, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
So, I have to say that.
You know, post Miss America, I used to get sent a ton of stuff
Oh, yeah.
because I didn't talk about politics
Politics?
online. And then I decided to run for office. And so now what we need to do is we need to find companies that align with our political views.
Correct. Yeah.
Send me the goods. Send me the goods.
You know, it is interesting. Like, that's a really interesting conversation about receiving PR and gifts and stuff like that from brands and making political content. I feel like maybe one of the only reasons I still get PR is because I still do the occasional beauty content video, which I really enjoy, and it brings me a lot of joy to make that. But my true passion, obviously, is talking shit about conservatives online. So, like,
Your true
but
passion is planning JD and Erica's wedding.
absolutely, yeah. And shameless plug, if you haven't checked out my video about it, please do. I worked
That's where
really
your
hard on
passion
it.
lies.
I worked really hard on it, and that's actually not even a joke. Like, I did actually spend quite a bit of time on it. So
Did you get paid
anyway,
for it, Maggie? Or are you just another liberal without a job talking
I
about
am just another girl. I am just a liberal without a job. Yep. You know me. I'm a freeloader.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's hilarious though. It is. I will say this though. Here's the most frustrating thing about creating any type of content, and that is it's always for me anyway. It's always the videos where I actually do take the time to like go and find the sources and put up the green screen,
Right.
play the video, and do all the shit.
And they
The other
flop.
ones, nothing.
They
It's always
fucking flop.
I mean, the most recent video that went viral, I was literally like, I hadn't brushed my teeth. I hadn't brushed my eyebrows. I was in my robe on my couch, just like bitching to the camera because I was
Mhm.
pissed.
Yeah.
And that's the one that has like hundreds of thousands of views. I'm like, oh my God, everyone has
It's
seen me.
always
I
like
literally
that.
have butter on my teeth. Like,
It's always like that. It's so frustrating, and it is really annoying when you have, like, a video that you feel like you've put a ton of time and effort into, and it just, like, fucking flops, and you're like,
I just
"Cool,
don't.
amazing."
I just
Yeah.
don't. I
Anyway.
don't anymore. And in fact, I just made my first TikTok yesterday in like 5 weeks.
Oh,
6
really?
maybe. Yeah, I was like, "Hi, I haven't been here. Anyway, here's my baby." That's why I haven't been here. I actually got
Anyway.
I actually got a text from a woman who was like, "Excuse me, did you just like flash your baby and that was it?" And I was like, "Well, I put him on other platforms. I haven't been on
Right.
TikTok. I didn't feel like making video." Anyway,
Yeah, totally.
how to me, what headline has made you pretty furious this week?
Yes, so mine has to do with the Epstein files. We already touched on this, but this is from Rolling Stone. It says Jeffrey Epstein emails reveal Trump, quote, knew about victims. So House Democrats released correspondence in which the convicted sex offender wrote that the president, quote, spent hours at my house with a victim. So the victim was like blurred out, or the name was not released. But yeah, I mean, I think that based off of the previous notes that we've made, it's so fascinating to me how this political party the Republicans are dedicated. They are pot committed to protecting these sex offenders. And I find that deeply troubling that Republicans seem to have this there's sort of this conversation going around, rhetoric going around about how if any Democrat were to ever be found in the Epstein files, that we would say, oh no, we don't want them to go to prison, et cetera. Like, we only want Donald Trump to go to prison, right? And the problem with not being in a cult is that I want every person who is listed in the Epstein files to go to prison. I don't give a flying fuck who they are. I don't care if Jesus himself were listed in there. Like, I want these people to be held accountable. And I think that is the kind of glaringly obvious difference between the two parties right now, is that, like, one party seems to be really committed to holding anyone who is named accountable, whereas even your own party's members, whereas the other side is like, well, our party can do no wrong, and the people who lead it can do no wrong, and Democrats only want to see Republicans go to prison. So that just could not be further from the truth. So yeah, incredibly telling that we know that a lot of the dates on these emails Some of them were, right after Donald Trump became president. There's emails about very sus people. I think Jeffrey Epstein and Trump spent allegedly Thanksgiving in 2017 together while he was president. There's just a lot of shit that's slowly coming out. And I think in the next week or so, we are really going to see much more, or even in the coming months. So it will be very, very interesting to see how this all transpires.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was interesting in the emails that came out was that Epstein basically said he had never met anyone as terrible as Donald Trump. Like, never met a
Yeah.
human as awful as this man.
Isn't that
And
crazy?
that's saying a lot coming from someone who literally runs an international child sex trafficking ring.
It's literally like Satan himself being like, the worst person I've ever met is Donald Trump. Like, what? Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to continue that conversation, although I wish we were not having it at all. And
Yeah,
it's been noted, but we should say the people at the forefront of the conversation need to be the victims, the people who
absolutely.
deserve to see justice in this moment. We all deserve to know who these people are and what they've
Yep.
done, but the people who deserve it the most are the women who suffer, they're women now, the girls who suffered at the hands of these very powerful people who should be held accountable.
Yeah.
No
The
matter their political
children.
party, no matter how much money they have, no matter where they're from, they need to be held accountable.
Yep. Correct.
And I actually think that a portion of your headline plays into my own, which I actually saw the post. It was posted on social media, but the study comes from the Global Institute of Women's Leadership. It was researched by them. And it is that 1/3 of boys think that women's rights don't matter. That's the headline of the research. And I think that that is so troubling. It says they found that 1 in 3 teenage boys say, quote, feminism has gone too far. And 33% of them think women's rights have, quote, gone far enough. And it goes on to say this mindset is being shaped by online spaces where misogynistic content thrives. Algorithms reward outrage, and role models are influencers who profit from hate, one of whom we are going to talk about ad nauseum today, as we've already mentioned. But this is infuriating to me. It makes me so furious. Not only because I think it leads to the society that protects people like Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, but
Yep.
we have made such great strides regarding women's rights and feminism, and what that means is different for everyone, I think. But the reality is just that women have the opportunity to be whoever they want to be.
Hmm.
And if that means you want to stay at home with your children and let your husband go into the workplace, then that's fine. And if it means that you want to be a multi-millionaire CEO of a huge corporation, that's fine. Like, in every
Hmm.
space in between there. And the fact that we're sort of sliding backwards by way of what young men think about
Yeah.
that is extremely troubling, especially as a mom now of 3 boys, trying to figure out how to
Totally.
navigate demonstrating to them while working from home, just so we're clear. So I
Yeah.
am home, even though
Hmm.
I'm working.
Yeah. Right.
And how do we have those conversations, and how do we demonstrate in our household and beyond that women's rights are not only important but necessary for all of us and for society? So pretty furious about that.
Yeah. I mean, and that is a great segue into our episode today. We are going to be talking about Charlie Kirk yet again, Turning Point USA, and obviously Erica Kirk, we have
Uh,
to talk about. And we are going to chat with Caroline, who is our dear friend who used to work for Turning Point USA. Mallory, do you want to bring Caroline in?
Yeah, I would love to. If you haven't heard our last episode with Caroline, you absolutely should go back and listen to it. It's all about how she used to work with Turning Point USA, how she translated from being a conservative Christian right wing media person, PR, I guess, to now her Instagram handle is babyblue.tx. She has come to the dark side. Anyway, our first
Yes.
conversation with her is on the website. You can absolutely go listen. We're going to bring her back in. Please welcome Caroline.
Caroline, welcome back to Pretty Furious. We're so excited to have you again.
Well, I'm so excited to be back.
How have things been since we saw you BC?
BC, things have been good for me at least since, it happened. Obviously, after the big incident, my initial video talking about my involvement with Turning Point circulated again. And so I reached new people, including a lot of people that weren't so happy that I had critical things to say about Turning Point USA and Mr. Charlie Kirk. So definitely interesting. Glad that it's died down a lot since, because I'm just tired of it.
Yeah, totally. I was gonna say of course we are referring to BC as before Charlie, and now we are speaking AC after Charlie. So the incident, it being Charlie Kirk's assassination, we are gonna talk a little bit more about that as we get into things here. But Mallory, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, isn't it interesting how much it has died down? I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there was all this conversation. Obviously, we witnessed the spectacle that was the quote unquote memorial service where his parents and family members weren't there or involved, but I digress.
Wait, hang on. Wait. Stop. His parents and family members were not at the thing that happened at the Arizona Cardinal Stadium.
I don't think so. They weren't involved and they weren't honored. They weren't mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Carry on. Just wanted to clarify.
Does anyone know where he was buried?
Yeah, you'd think they would have like had a full-on camera crew at the burial site.
They definitely had a full-on camera crew on Erica Kirk's hands as she touched his cold dead ones in the casket, but we didn't get any further information. We did, however, get the announcement that she became the CEO of Turning Point. So
all of the fundraising emails that came along with it, yes.
Immediately, within 24 hours. My question to you is, were you ever... I don't think you and Erica crossed timelines, did you? You didn't know her.
No. I was before her. I mean, I was involved with Turning Point before Candace Owens even was. Wow. So it was pretty early on. So I never met her. Didn't know who she was until relatively recently, till I kind of jumped back into the political fold.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on, let's give it the 7 days AC
post incident?
I mean, when you're at that level of notoriety that Charlie Kirk was at and his family and the organization was at, having access to the President of the United States, having access to these huge decision makers, everything that is done has to be so calculated. There's not just things that happen to occur. It's all calculated. It's all measured and pointed. So I think there are a lot of people who are like, oh, don't criticize the way that somebody else grieves. Don't criticize the way that an organization handles such a tragedy. Okay, but when you are at that level of notoriety, you inherently open yourself up to criticism. That's right. As you're a public figure, the organization is highly public, highly outspoken. Not to mention the fact that the organization and Charlie were so opposed to any sort of criticism, even before he was assassinated. So I think it makes sense to consider everything that happened, from the carefully curated photos posted, the highly curated photo ops with Erica Kirk, and like the pictures of her walking with JD Vance and Usha Vance. Like, there's nothing that is by accident. So I think that opens it up to criticism, including when you have sparklers and pyrotechnics at a memorial service.
The criticism, I think, was not necessarily in how someone was grieving or whether or not they were. but rather that it was as you mentioned, the calculation of all the business quote unquote elements that happened so quickly. You know, 3 days later, she's announced, or I'm going to botch the timeline, but let's call it within 7 days, she's announced as the CEO of Turning Point. There are press conferences. There's JD Vance doing the show from his desk, and like there's just like all this weird PR fundraising stuff that transpired, and how quickly they turned all of that into an opportunity just felt really gross.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
right.
I think inherently, in my opinion, I don't know, like, obviously from his perspective, what he thought he was doing. But in my opinion, Charlie appeared to me to be just the ultimate opportunist. And so from that perspective, it makes sense for his organization and his successors to be equally as opportunistic in how they handle something that is indeed horrible, like anyone getting assassinated, but viewing it and with that like capitalist perspective of what can I derive from this tragedy in this 7-day news cycle. And they took advantage of that.
Yeah, totally.
And I agree that that's gross.
Yeah.
I think that's who they are.
I think I remember seeing, I think it was the night, I'm pretty positive on the timeline of this. It was either the night, if not, maybe it was the day after, that Turning Point USA released a t-shirt on their website and on their Instagram that was like, had a drawing of Charlie on it with some kind of Bible verse. And it was essentially, it looked as though he was like ascending into heaven.
Yeah, I think you're right. That rings a bell. Honestly, that whole week was such a blur.
Right, totally.
So I started reconnecting with some of my old Turning Point people. We all worked there or were involved in Turning Point at that same time. A lot of whom are now pretty progressive. Not all of them. A lot of them are for sure not. But some of them are. And so we were able to process together and have conversations together about how do you grieve someone that you don't know anymore, that also the person you knew was lost a long time ago. Because as we talked about, like last time I was on here, I think that we talked about this, that Charlie's views were so different when I was involved than they were in the past like 4 years or so. He became so outspoken about Christian nationalism. He became so racist in his rhetoric and offensive in his rhetoric, misogynistic. Whereas back when I was involved in Turning Point, policy-wise, I now would disagree with a lot of what he promoted and stood for. But there was more respect, I think, toward other people. It was more of a focus on like fiscal policy and financial responsibility and limited government, and much less on white Christian nationalism. So as a lot of some others saw the change in the organization and in who he was, there was some grief already with that.
Yeah.
I think so. It was
even before the incident.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that actually is something that I hadn't considered when wanting to talk to you again, is the duality that you must have been experiencing, or maybe potentially still are, in this person that you worked with and you knew. And we did talk about that you were like, all in all, I don't think he was a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now that maybe has changed a little bit in his actions and behavior and rhetoric, but that is a lot to consider, and to think about how to grieve someone that you knew kind of,
don't
really,
kind of knew. I wasn't like inner circle, so it was very, so I don't want to center myself in discussing his assassination because there really isn't much of an impact on me. It's more of me from an outside perspective now, whereas I used to used to work with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that in different ways, right? Like, it's almost like if something were to happen to someone you were really close to when you were a teenager, and you're like,
Exactly.
I don't really know that person anymore, but we were really close then. And even though you're saying that's not necessarily you and Charlie were not close, but you still had interactions. It's a person.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah,
like it's really just weird.
Are you surprised by the way that his death took over I want to say the world, but are you surprised by just how insane the conversation became around him and who he was?
Exact same question. Yeah.
So I guess I assumed that his fame and his notoriety was contained to the political bubble because I was involved with Turning Point. Even at that time, I recognized that, okay, my community here, my social environment within this political world is not as big as it seems. It's a small community of people. It just seems like, from my perspective, that it's the whole world. And so when he died, I assumed kind of like, okay, this is gonna be newsworthy because of who he is and what he's done. I did not anticipate, or I guess I didn't recognize how beloved he was to half of America. I figured people like, okay, maybe kind of know who he is, but don't necessarily. I wasn't expecting to log onto Facebook and see every single person from my hometown post a picture of Charlie Kirk. Right. And yeah. I just didn't realize the breadth of his influence.
Yeah, it's like people you had never seen discuss politics on social media before. They come out of the woodwork right when a right-wing podcaster, because let's be clear, that's what Charlie Kirk was a right-wing podcaster. I made a thread about that the other day, talking about how he literally that's what he did. Like, this wasn't a philanthropist. This wasn't a person who did great acts of community service for anybody. This wasn't a person who gave a lot of money away to anybody. Like, this was a person who spewed really hateful rhetoric all the time. And like, I got on Facebook and same thing. I saw all these posts from people being like, rest in peace, blah, blah, blah. I had this old ex-boyfriend who completely did a 180, and we was posting all these quote debates with Charlie Kirk and other people. And I was like, what is happening here? I haven't heard you talk about politics this entire last 5 years. And then now when this happens, that's the thing that makes you want to speak out. I found that so fascinating about this entire thing. I found that
so fascinating and strange, because would we all have the same reaction if like Dennis Prager got shot, or right. like if Candace Owens, or like why this massive reaction to a murder? Like, understandably, it's normal to have like a very intense reaction to something so extreme, but really you've had no extreme reaction to anything that has happened in the past couple administrations? Yeah. That you have no right. thoughts on that?
Yeah. And I think that was the public discourse that so many of us were having, right? Like, you see all of these people that have not said anything. And in fact, it was kind of jarring for Maggie and I have talked about this. It was a little bit jarring to log on and see people. Like, I thought I had pretty much rid my feed of, it
was the great purge for me of 2025.
Interesting. And speaking of people posting photos like ascending into heaven, that kind of thing, I was just like, what is going on here? So what I think is most interesting now is the dots that people have connected about Erica Kirk and who she is and where she got her start, which was the Miss Arizona USA stage. She had ties to Donald Trump long before she met Charlie. And this orphanage in, where was it? Romania? Russia?
It's like,
I don't know.
In like Romania. Ukraine or Romania?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's like not allowed in Romania.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of
Banned from a country.
Yeah, fully fully banned from a country.
and let's be honest, you don't just get banned from a country. So why
You got it. Yeah.
where is the rest of this conversation? The news cycle has moved on. There are people online who have talked about this and connected the dots and all of that, but I feel like this should still be kind of front and center. How does this person ascend to this position such that she goes from the Miss Arizona USA stage to being banned from a country and then rubbing her hands up the back of the neck of the vice president in front of his wife? Like, where?
Barf.
Fully in pleather pants. No, literally. I mean, I think the Erica Kirk of it all is really where, like, yes, of course, there are so many things about Charlie Kirk's assassination and his death that so many questions that went completely unanswered. And honestly, I don't know that the public will ever gain access to any of those answers. I'm sorry, what happened with the shooter? What are we doing there? What's going on with that? I haven't heard a peep about that since
Zero.
literally
Meanwhile,
2 months ago.
we know where Louis is.
Right, exactly. Like, so, so I'm like, what's going on with that? And then, yeah, to your point, Mallory, like, where was he buried? Like, what happened with all of this? And sure, there are instances with people who are high profile where they want to keep their burial spot,
Of
private,
course.
all of that. This is a
No,
woman.
I'm sorry.
This is
I
a
know where
wife.
This is
Marilyn's
not
Yeah,
that.
I don't
buried.
believe that
I know
for a
where
fucking
Elvis is
minute.
buried. And these people had Charlie Kirk on the same level. They were exalting him as some sort
Yep.
of,
Literally,
savior,
I saw posts that were like, Jesus died when he was 33, and Charlie died when he was 33. And
Oh
I'm just
my
like,
God, give me a fucking break.
yeah, like
What?
someone I know sent that to me, and they're like, just think about the ministry he's done and the ministry we can carry on. Ministry of hatred? Like, what are we talking about?
it was all taken out of context, Caroline.
Yeah, so yeah, say more about that, like about the taken out of context piece. That was a huge conversation driver that I think so many people were engaging in after his death. This was just everything that he has ever said was taken out of context. He, would debate people and he would respectfully debate them. And that always to me was, I'm like, do you hear yourself? Do you hear him? Like, what is what's happening here to where you're not computing this in the same way that I am? Like, so say more about that, your thoughts on his like peaceful debates.
Well, so number one, a 30-year-old man who has made a career off of speaking about issues and pushing talking points on issues, going onto college campuses and debating 18, 19-year-olds inherently is a disrespectful debate because you are setting them up to look like idiots.
Can we also just outline what an actual debate looks like? Because
Correct.
having college students in an auditorium between the ages of 18 and 22, standing in line, waiting for a chance to stand in front of the microphone and say one line or whatever, and then be decimated by somebody without the chance to properly prepare or rebuke what he's saying, that's not a debate.
Yeah.
It's a soundbite mill.
It's a soundbite mill, and also debates have rules. There are foundations that you lay. Like a true debate looks very different than anything we ever saw come from Charlie Kirk or Turning Point USA's media factory. By the way, you said it's a soundbite mill. It is. What they were doing was milling for quotes and media, and then pushing out single lines that Charlie said. So I just wanted to clarify.
Exactly.
Debate is a very strong word.
Right.
100%. As an attorney, there is procedure. It was in court this morning, and I stood up. I said my piece to the judge. I said, this is what we're moving for. This is the grounds for it. I sit down. Other side stands up, says their piece to the judge, sits down. I stand up. I respond to what I respond to. There's no interrupting. There's no fast talking, shutting people down. There is clear procedure because the goal is actual resolution and actually getting to the heart of an issue. with what Turning Point did, what Charlie did, exactly what you said, Mallory. They are just looking for those quick vertical video sound bites that they can push out. Number one, to go viral. Number two, so that they can discredit, oh, look what they're teaching on these liberal college campuses, which is just a part of their anti-intellectualism.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think about Charlie's quote unquote respectful debate style. I think that that's just so incredibly misleading and such a cop out for people that are trying to defend someone when the substance of what he said consistently was hateful and misguided. So just beyond how his style of debate, getting into the heart of what he said, I don't care if it's taken out of context.
Yeah.
First of all, he takes things out of context.
Right.
Second of all, he still said those things. So it doesn't matter to me. I don't need the full context. If the context of what you're saying allows for that kind of discourse, you already are engaging in a kind of debate that I don't want any part in.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
And as been noted, it doesn't matter if there's context if the context doesn't change what you said. And
right.
in conversations,
it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
In the conversations that have been made public, you know, when you say, I fear for my life when I get on a plane and see a black pilot, or I'm taking, I don't have the direct quote, but about black women's intellectual ability.
Right.
All coming from a man, by the way, who I'm fairly certain didn't graduate from college.
He didn't.
Correct.
He didn't get into West Point.
And when he didn't graduate from college and has the nerve to talk about women like the First Lady of the United States, who is the most educated, by the way, the most educated First Lady we've ever had, who also happens to be black. I found that the amount of people who were willing to go to bat for this man that they had this weird parasocial relationship with, that the idea of like it was all taken out of context, it just made me we know we have an education crisis in this country. We know that the MAGA base in particular, as Trump has said, is not extremely known for being educated. But it just made me, I was like, wow, even when you hear the words, you read what he wrote, you can read the context, you're still not coming to the correct conclusion about what was said. That is super duper alarming. But I also think it speaks to the level of it's Christian nationalism, white superiority. There's just this whole, all of that far outweighs anything that someone sees with their eyes and ears.
Yeah,
exactly. Totally. Exactly. There's just such a just self-delusion in that world where it does not matter if you serve the facts to them on a silver platter. If admitting that Charlie Kirk, who's even not even to the extent that he was a racist, that he was a white Christian nationalist, you can't even admit that he used language consistent with Christian nationalism and supportive of white superiority, then we're not going to get anywhere. Yeah, like if you can't even admit that, then you're just not willing to engage in a good faith discussion about who he was as a public figure.
Yeah, totally. I would love to take a moment or five to get into one Erica Kirk. I admittedly did not know a ton about her prior to Charlie's death. I knew who she was, of course. I knew that she was a former pageant girl. I knew that she
Y'all
was
should
involved.
have her on.
Yeah, girl, come on our podcast. I've only made fun of you on the internet a gazillion times, but thank you. I knew she was involved in the Miss USA program. I knew that was her affiliation to Donald Trump, etc. What I didn't know was kind of the rabbit hole that I subsequently went down, which was the Romania of it all and all of that business. That's fucking crazy. But I also found it incredibly jarring to watch her experience in the aftermath. And I know that, again, we've touched on this. Everybody grieves in different ways. There are a million and one ways to grieve. But I do think that the very public display of certain things was very, very alarming. This man's like full dead body on Instagram. I saw that and I literally was like, that's almost more jarring than the video of his assassination in the first place, which no one wanted to see, nobody needed to see, but
No.
it showed up on basically all of our news feeds. If you are like a politically inclined person, it showed up there. That was very alarming. I think just like the constant churning of content out after his death was really weird. I felt that to be very bizarre and like a really kind of just I didn't know what to do with that. And then the way that she speaking from his office and wearing all white and doing these little eye dabs with the whole production of it was very it was a
Production is
production.
the right word.
Yeah, it was a
Yes,
production. And like
absolutely.
any grieving person, any person who has lost somebody close to them, whether it is your spouse or a friend or family member, whatever it is, any grieving person knows that like those first few days after, you're not a person, you're a shell of a human. It's just insane, you
Right.
know? So I am just, I was floored by her entire situation there with like the presentation of it all
The
was
full
very,
glam.
yeah, insane to me.
The post showing his dead body made me just so like have just such a huge reaction to it, because even in his death, his body being used essentially as a prop.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh my God. Weird.
It was
Like,
Weird.
opportunistic, right?
Exactly.
Because
It
any
just goes back to
rational,
how can we spin this and how can we take over the news cycle? Like I don't understand.
part of what we haven't touched on is that there was a desire and a effort to create a narrative that the person who did this to Charlie was somebody on the left, right? So
Yes.
that's an actual real part of all of this opportunity, right? There, the churning of the content, the fundraising, the commentary, her weird press conference was full of her body language and her voice, and the way she communicated was really angry is not the word.
There's vitriol.
She was trying
it
to
was,
incite something.
yeah,
She
it
was
was like
trying to
revenge. She wanted
Yeah.
revenge.
She was trying
Yeah.
to incite something in their audience, and
Yes.
basically she was like, we will rise, like this kind of thing. And all of that was because under that, they were trying to make it such that the person who did this was liberal and on the left. Come to find
Right.
out, what we do know, because again, where is that conversation? What we do know is
Exactly.
that that's not true if they even have put forward the correct person. Like, it's all
Right. Question mark.
question mark. But I think that's what's missing there is it was opportunistic because they were trying to push a narrative that
Yes.
this was
Yeah.
political violence, that the person who did this was on the left, that the left can't be trusted, that, and all of that pushes towards Donald Trump sending troops to the streets to curb this angry, mob of people on the left in America, like all this kind of stuff. So it was all related. And
I'm very thankful that things nationally did not devolve the way that they wanted them to. Like, they're just from the start, this push, like you said, the revenge of it all, wanting for like the movement to incite there to be this violence. So on one side of it, there's the opportunism with the Turning Point people trying to grow the organization. You have them going into states that are like Florida or like Oklahoma and Texas, having mandatory Turning Point chapters at all their high schools, like crazy, or wanting to go down that road. So you have the organizational opportunism, and then you have the administration's opportunism, because they, as we know, have been just like chomping at the bit for any opportunity to expand federal presence in cities, any opportunity to deploy troops, because what an authoritarian regime needs is an excuse and someone to point the finger at to justify their own bad behavior. And I'm very thankful that things did not devolve, because there was nothing there. There was no violence on the left there actually to point to. which obviously I'm thankful for.
Yeah, so there's like the administrative opportunity, the organizational opportunities that you've outlined. What I thought was interesting is after November 4th, the elections that took place that Tuesday where Democrats swept, right, a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Yes. The commentary was that Charlie Kirk's death wasn't helpful to them. There was this underlying thought that Charlie's departure was going to be helpful in the election cycle, that it was going to help them win some of these elections, and that there was disappointment among Republicans that it didn't. And I found that to be extremely telling, because what do you mean you thought someone's death was going to be helpful to you?
That's crazy work to say that like out loud. Like
What do you
that's
mean?
so weird.
What do
That's
you mean?
so crazy. Yeah.
Can you imagine a Democrat saying that and being like, "We thought this person dying would help us out." Like
That's so gross.
that's bizarre.
Not to be conspiratorial, but
Nope, I'm there. We're on the same wavelength
like,
here.
what do you mean? You thought the death of this guy that you suddenly stopped talking about was going to be helpful to you?
Mallory and I were not conspiracy theorists until Charlie Kirk's death, and now we are, I believe, heavy
I
conspiracy
don't know. That's
theorists.
up for
No,
debate,
just kidding.
actually. Listen, I just think once you've watched Scandal, there's nothing that you
For sure.
put past anyone who's trying to make gains in politics.
For sure.
Well, with the kind of people that are in MAGA politics, they also have no limits as to what they'll believe.
Right.
And if you believe that the ultimate success of a country depends on Republicans being elected, and add in the fact that a lot of them think that that is a divine mission from God, you'll justify a lot. You'll justify a lot of actions.
I remember somebody bringing up the premise that Charlie Kirk was very much overtly and openly for the release of the Epstein files. That was something he was very much down for, wanted to happen, encourage people to try and make that happen. And now we have sort of the first like round of things being released from the Epstein files, and his death happening very quickly, like after he admitted that support. So I, again, am not somebody who identifies as a conspiracy theorist. However,
I feel like when we have to keep saying that,
it's a little fishy. It's a little fishy. Okay. But I do find that so fascinating that was like kind of the one major issue that he disagreed with a lot of establishment Republicans on, in terms of, he wanted these files to come to light. And now we don't have another figure like him out there who is pushing for the same thing. So I find that really
the rest of Americans wanting him to be released.
Exactly. Like it's like
But
only Americans.
I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they were just talking about all the Epstein stuff going on right now, because we can't escape it, and neither can Trump. But they were saying, like, even the cheesiest, most low budget movie, like if these things happened in that movie, you would just be like, of course they did. Like in the movie version of our sad reality, where Charlie Kirk gets shot after, one, demanding, talking about the Epstein files needing to be released, two, also like kind of speaking out against Israel a little bit. And I'm not going to get into that like line of conspiracy, because I think there is that anti-Semitism there. But like, even in the cheesiest movie, you would roll your eyes at that. Like, I don't know.
Here we are.
And yet, we are here. Yep.
So what I want to go back to Turning Point, because I find we talked about in the first episode how much of what is happening with Turning Point is grooming young people who have not yet figured out who they are, kind of latching onto them at that collegiate level. I have to admit, while I don't think that that's necessarily right, like the grooming element of it, I do think it was a brilliant and strategic move from Charlie and Republicans and donors to engage a base of people that they needed in order to win elections, and Republicans are really good at that. But watching the sort of surgence of turning point events they came to Auburn, which is where I'm from. Massive arena where Don Jr. came to speak and the president called on the phone, and Turning Point had this whole arena filled with like
Oh my God,
lights
that's
and speakers.
crazy.
And one of the headlines that we talked about today was this 1/3 of boys think women's rights don't matter. And it was a Global Institute for Women's Leadership poll or study that found that out. And it got me thinking about the intersection of the organization of Turning Point and sort of where we are with feminism and trad wives and all of that kind of stuff. What is your thought on sort of this rise in men denouncing feminism and the organization Turning Point USA?
When I was involved with Turning Point, this was when like the guy like Milo Yiannopoulos was also kind of in that world, and
I have not heard that name in a minute.
People were protesting him on campuses.
Yeah, I was out. So he was speaking at a campus in Chicago. I remember one of the things he would say, like, feminism is a cancer. It's cancer. And so that Turning Point world, and then where we are now in 2025, we have different definitions of feminism and women's rights than what they do. The kind of like the perspectives are really different. So I think within the right, the feminist kind of the definition of that is so much more focused on being anti-men, and that inherently is antithetical to the patriarchal Christian nationalist Christian world, where the man is the head of the household, where women you submit to your husband. Feminism and having women's rights is just totally antithetical to that in that black and white way of thinking. And so I think that Turning Point played a huge role in that becoming so much more mainstream with young people, because back 10 years ago, what like high schoolers were talking about women's rights and feminism, that was much more of a like people in their 20s and 30s talking about. So now we have high school boys being told that women should not have rights outside the home. Women are designed by God to have children and be homemakers, and that's their purpose, and that's where they can step into their feminine and live out their feminine energy, or whatever.
Well, it doesn't help that in addition to that, we have algorithms that are pushing very far right extremist Christian nationalist evangelical views on women voting. There have been a couple of things floating around the internet, and I haven't looked into like an actual study on this, but people noting that, you know, it's like taking less than 20 minutes on a brand new account for someone to be fed anti-women, anti-feminist content. And that to me is extremely scary when you couple the world that we're living in with Turning Point USA and all of that with what people are being fed on the algorithm. And now as a mom of 3 boys, I'm just like daily going, oh my God.
Yeah, totally.
How do we combat this?
Right.
You know?
There was this girl the other day that I saw, Mallory, that that's an excellent point, that if you like create a new account, what will happen is this girl went onto YouTube, created a brand new account under like a different email. She went very far as to like create a different email, all of that. And she typed in woman debating or something like that. And it was just very, very, 2 words, very simple. And the results that popped up were men debating women's rights and if women should have rights, not
or
women.
I saw this clips of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And it was young women on college campuses.
I literally was like, oh my God. Like, so you don't have these videos of, say, Kamala Harris or, Hillary Clinton or whoever. You don't have videos of women debating, which is what your probably searching for. You have videos of men talking about if women should exist and like have rights in the first place.
Even if the debates were pro women having rights, the fact that we're having that debate just brings it into question and implies that it is up for debate.
Right, exactly.
Which is insane.
Yeah, that it's a debatable topic in the first place. We did briefly gloss over this, and I just want to circle on back to it. Erica Kirk and JD Vance. So as you may have gathered, I have been making videos about what I suspect Erica Kirk will be wearing at her wedding to JD Vance.
Absolutely.
I'm calling it now. I don't know if it is a presidential ticket or if it's a marriage. But I kind of think it could be, think it could be like a hybrid. Yeah, I think it could be a little bit of both. So would love to know your thoughts on if you think that they are going to either run together or elope together and get married. And also just about that head situation. And like, I don't know, personally, the only man's head I've touched like that is someone that I was having sexual relations with. Okay. So like, I just want to make it really clear on like the head situation that like, that's not how you touch the head of a friend whatsoever.
Absolutely. Absolutely not. One time, I think about this vividly. I was giving a hug to someone, a guy friend of me and my husband. I give him a hug, normal. And I accidentally touched the back of his head, and it was the most horrifying moment because I wanted to be like, I promise I'm not trying to like be your mistress. Like, right. I'm not trying to seduce you by touching the back of your head while we're in a hug. That is so horrifying. So seeing that picture immediately took me back to that moment where I was so embarrassed. Thankfully, I wasn't on stage. Thankfully, it wasn't the vice president of the United States of America.
But again,
crazy.
Can we just go back to the beginning of this conversation where we said these things are calculated?
Right.
There is not, neither of them are people who are ever unaware of where the camera is.
Yep.
Watching how many eyeballs there will be, where it will end up in the media. That is not a mistake.
And
unless you're just so caught up in the moment with your boo. But
right.
all that just goes out the window.
Unless you are already fucking. Then like it might be, we don't know.
Then it's like a oops, like
oopsie daisy. Yeah.
The whole world just saw how comfortable I am with you.
A week later at the Fox News Patriot Awards, she's giving, was it Garth Brooks or I don't fucking know, some country star's wife. She's hugging her and does the same thing to the back of her head. And everybody like...
But it wasn't at first. And it was like she thought about it and was like...
Right. She was like, oh, fuck, I better try to get everybody to think that this is just how I hug people.
Opportunistic. Here's an opportunity to do it again.
Exactly.
People think it's just normal.
Yep.
So crazy.
I find that fascinating. I don't know.
And like with JD Vance, he has no ideology of his own, that he just has been a chameleon his entire life, from when he went to Yale, then like from when he was involved with Peter Thiel, then when he was a Never Trumper, now he's vice president of the United States. He is from my point of view, looks like he's a hollow person. Hollow person with no actual like substance to what he believes in. And so it would make sense just from like a practicality standpoint that when he married Asha Vance, she helped him kind of learn how to navigate that world, because I mean, she is highly educated and highly respected in her field. She was able to help him figure out how to access and navigate that world. So from a purely utilitarian standpoint, marrying her made sense.
Yeah.
Now, when that party is so white-centric, not that it hasn't been, but it's so like Christian nationalist.
It's much more blatant now.
Much more much more blatant. Exactly. They're like, it's not just dog whistly, they're outright saying it. Just visual. It makes more sense for him to be with Erica Kirk versus the current mother of his children.
He's going to get rid of the brown woman. He has to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
I mean, electorally, if he is running, she could be a liability because she's accomplished and she is not white.
And she's not a Christian either.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So, like, that's
unequally yoked.
Yeah.
I also, though, just find it so fascinating, and I'll leave it with this, that their base is so trad wife adjacent or right up in it, wanting women to be at home, women, you know, whether we vote, whether we have kids, all this other stuff. Meanwhile, the vice president is married to a woman who's 10 times as smart as he is, well, more accomplished and more educated. And not for nothing, even if he moves to Erica Kirk, she also is a businesswoman who is now the CEO of an organization. Like, she's also not a woman who's staying at home barefoot and pregnant. I'll never understand how people can look up to these folks and see that it's do as I say, not as I do in every facet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, it's crazy. You have Candace Owens, Alex Clark, who are these accomplished media personalities within that media sphere, telling women not to live the same way. Crazy.
Well, Caroline, you're a treat as always, and we loved gabbing with you
guys.
about this. This was amazing.
Thank you. This was so fun. I am all for some hot goss about Erica Kirk and JD Vance.
Some hot goss AC.
fully AC.